A little while longer, but this lecture is mucosal defenses, one and two, and I'll put them together. Now I will hesitate for a minute, somewhere in the middle. If you want to take a break, go ahead. Otherwise, there's only about a half hour left. So if we go all the way through, we're done early. Up to you. All the females wanted to just keep going, finish it all. It's up to you. Anyway, we're going to be talking about gastric mucosal defense today, and those are your chapters in guidance. And guidance, it doesn't bother me. Maybe you can here. Anyway, there's a chapter in guidance. The GI tract is very amenable to pathology, or pathophysiology as I call it. What it is that whatever was going right, all of a sudden goes wrong. And if you see it going wrong, you know what the normal, it's like a review for you, okay? There'll be some new things, but even Guyton has a simple chapter. He calls it physiology of disorder. I call it pathophysiology, okay? So there's a whole chapter on that. And that's over here if you want. It's not bad. I'll show you a few slides. Anyway, are the notes helping you guys? Yeah, okay. All right. If you want to buy the book, you can. My suggestion is not to. It's about 3 or 4 years old, and so 1 more year or 2 more years, and it's out of date. And it's written for researchers, really, clinical and regular sciences. But the reason I'm pointing it out is how many definitions you're going to have them for the LGE, okay? He's an MD, PhD, okay? So he'll take care of the LGE. You have it when, tomorrow?
Yes.
Yeah, tomorrow. And while Patan, I think you know him, right? Or do you?
Yeah.
Have you had him? You'll have him in the 3rd year in GI. I teach a few, and then he teaches a lot of the clinical GI. I think it's the 3rd year. Whatever it is, it's called 352 or something like that. All right, so gastric mucosal injury kind of makes sense. This picture is from a pathology book that you'll be getting next year, I think. And basically, it's an imbalance, okay? There's a balance between damaging forces and defensive. So to get PUD, you gotta have an imbalance. You either have more damaging forces or less defensive, okay? We'll get to that. But let's go take a look. Obviously, the damaging forces, we already know that, right? It's going to be acid and pepsin. That's pretty good, huh? You already know what they do, right? All right, let me show you a high school experiment here. We don't usually do that, but I don't know where they did this. It may be elementary school, I don't know. But anyway, we know that acid and pepsin are bad. Acid, pH, low pH, right? Activation of pepsin. Remember that? Pepsinogen, and also the optimum pH. So it's beautiful for pepsin, acid. So pepsin needs acid to even work, okay? Acid denation, we covered that, didn't we? Yeah. And it kills many of the bacteria. Because when you just had lunch, right? So if you ate some bacteria too. Aren't you guys, your stomach makes acid? Anyway, it kills bacteria. Now, this experiment here is interesting. Let's say it's a piece of chicken. I really don't know what it is. What do you guys eat? Chicken, beef? I don't know. It's meat, some kind of meat, right? Let's say it's chicken, all right? And they added acid to this tube. To this tube, they added pepsin. The 3rd one, pepsin plus acid. 24 hours later, the children came back and said, look at that, okay? Acid alone, well, not too much, right? Can't degrade it. It's not an enzyme, it's just denation. Pepsin alone, minimal, well, there is some, right? Okay? Some activity. But if you have acid plus pepsin, that chicken's gone. Okay? Now, the question comes, your stomach is no different than that piece of chicken. Okay? So why don't we digest ourselves, right? Yeah. Go on. We've covered some of this. We'll cover some more. Yeah. You're on the right track. But we have defenses, right? Anything else? Anybody else got? As a matter of fact, they're going to be linked, okay? Let me show you that in a minute. All right, we're going to cover the defensive forces. We're going to cover all of these, okay? No problem. And we know most of them, all right? So it's not going to be an issue. We got meat. All right, so number 2 is mucus. Number 1, mucus secretion and bicarbonate, just like you said, right? Let's take a look at that. Now, when we talk about, we haven't had pathology yet. Usually pathology that describes factors that are pre-epithelial, epithelial, and subepithelial. And we'll do the same thing with maldigestion, etc. But that's the way people like to approach the system. If you want to analyze what's going on with your patient, take a look at the lumen, deal with those things, then epithelial cells, and then finally the interstitium. All right? And it's stratified that way. That's what I meant. You know what stratified means? Layered, right? Okay. So, we have all these. We'll take a look at each of them, all right? Let's take a look at pre-epithelial. And that's what you suggested, mucus and bicarb. Okay? Let's see how it works. Well, there's a hint here. You see, every time I have a little bit of red or a box or something, take a look at it. It might help. I think it was important enough for me to put a square around it, right, and color it. Okay, so you got mucus surface at the mucosal surface. Epithelium is about what they say pH 7. You'll see some other numbers. And in the lumen, pH 2. Nice, huh? Okay, let's take a look at that. Now, first we'll consider the physical barrier, then the chemical one. I do this. This is PowerPoint. This is my bacteria, right? Copy paste, copy paste. But I put them all in the outer layer, and we'll get to why. And here again, the juice is pH 2. This will be the outer mucus layer. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then there's an inner mucus layer. But the mucus serves as a physical barrier, chemical barrier as well, all right? And I'll show you that, I think, yeah. All right. You can tell I do this, right? A bunch of squiggly lines. I can't draw, so anyway. This is your, I didn't draw this, one of our artists did. But this is the mucus layer. It's supposed to be thick here, and this is the loose mucus layer. It's the outer, loose, inner, firm layer, okay? So, the bacteria are shown here. Most of your bacteria will be trapped in this outer layer, okay? And then when motility comes along, that outer layer gets wiped out, okay? No problem. And everything that was trapped in there goes downstream. MMC takes it all the way down to the colon, okay? And that's where most of your bacteria live, is in the colon anyway. Did you know that? Well, you will later. All right, anyway, the outer loose layer is derived from the inner one. And here, that's what it means by gives rise to the outer layer. How does that happen? Well, pepsin, acid and pepsin, right? Acid freely moves around in here. So you got pepsin, it starts cleaving these bonds on the mucin molecule. Mucin is a glycoprotein. So it can get to the protein, the peptide bond. And what it does, it just loosens it, you know? If the water gets in there, so it's nothing, right? So, okay, it's removed by motility. Most of your bacteria, if you look at it, you're going to find them in that outer layer, right? Very few get through to the inner layer. As a matter of fact, has nothing to do, well, we'll get to that when we get to flagella. But these can be beads. People have used beads, the same size as bacteria, 1 micron. They put the bead, the same thing happens to the bead. They just get stuck in that outer layer. They don't get into that inner layer, right? Okay, very dense. Have I covered everything here? Yeah, okay. Is that okay? So
what do you mean by it's moved by motility?
It's loose. Okay. What people have done, you can use a suction vacuum in a lab to suck off that outer layer. Take a brush, you'll move that outer layer away, but you're not going to be able to move that inner layer. It's stuck. So you have to very dense and thick. But the outer layer now is wide open. You see, that's what my squiggly marks was supposed to mean. Now it's okay. Anyway, you got cleavages here. You see the difference here? Anything can get through there. there, right? But not very many things are gonna get through here, right? That's a better picture. At any rate, I'm glad you brought it up. The mucus is dynamic. It's not a static system, okay? You take off that outer layer, guess what happens? More mucus secretion. It just keeps going. Motility comes by. Remember, 3 times a minute? We covered that. The way the contractions are very strong and fast when they just rip that outer layer right off. And the same will happen in the small intestine too. They have an outer and inner layer. And this outer layer always gets cleaned off either by the migrating motility complex or regular basic contractions, yeah? What? Well, that's going to take the control. Or it'll be eaten by bacteria. It's a sugar protein, like a protein. We'll cover that later, okay? Did you hear the question? He was wondering what happens to the mucus, right? Just removed by motility, all right? That just ends up being moved downstream. Remember the MMC? Ends up in the colon, okay? And your bacteria like mucus, okay? Because it's a glycoprotein, sugar protein, so they enjoy it. But the dynamic nature is, I think, something important that you ought to know, because you don't just rip off all the mucus and there's nothing there. It's a system that as soon as they know that, as soon as mucus is removed, more is secreted, okay? That's not a problem. Unless you stop your goblet cells in the intestine or mucus cells in the stomach. I don't think you have to take notes, because I think I have them, but okay, the glycoprotein, that's in red, okay. The reason for functional layers is obvious, you know what I mean? Bacteria can't get into the inner, so the outer usually traps the bacteria. Or particles that are too large to get through. Acid or something like that will get through, okay? So it's not locked up, that's the trick. All right, we covered the physical barrier. It's just a physical barrier, right? And now we're going to talk about the inner layer, which is dense. Now, the outer layer doesn't present much of a diffusional barrier for either bicarb or hydrogen proton, but the inner layer will. Not complete, doesn't stop it, but it slows everything down, okay? And you can see here what's happening. They're making bicarb right here. So bicarb comes in here, okay? pH at the cell surface is 7. pH in the lumen here is 2. And this is my, archaic representation of a gradient. There's more here than there is here, okay? That's all it means. And it's a bicarbonate. That's what it's called. I didn't draw this because it's too nice. But gastric mucus bicarbonate barrier, bicarbonate gradient is what I call it. It is a gradient, okay, right? This is a gradient, all right? pH gradient, bicarbonate gradient. You'll hit various ways of describing the same thing. Okay, you see, well, outer layer. Well, see here they're saying the apical end is going to be pH 6.5 and 7 versus 7 in the previous slide. And this is what I was trying to allude to before. I don't think anybody's going to try to trick you by going, is the apical pH 7, 6.9, 6.5? Just understand what's going on. Someone else will say that the pH here in the lumen is 1, okay? So it's got 1.3. Close enough for government work for us, okay? At any rate, what you have here is bicarb entering from the into the mucus layer, from the epithelium, okay? And you got acid coming from the lumen, and here you got outer, nice picture, and you've got inner, but you put 6.5 versus 2. So you've got a gradient again, right? All right, and you can only establish it in the inner layer, right? That's why they draw it right there. This is where you're going to get a gradient, like okay, 2, maybe it goes to 2.5 here, but then it becomes steeper down here because it's a thick and very dense layer, the mucin layer. All right, epithelial secretion of mucus. Remember this? Anion exchanger. And when you have an exchanger, you're going to be exchanging the same charge, right? If it's a cation, you're going to exchange for another cation. If it's an anion, you're going to exchange for an anion. And I think you'll see this here. Here's the same thing, anion exchanger. Here, you're exchanging sodium for hydrogen. Okay? But it saves cation for cation. When you have a transporter, usually, I mean, if you have to take your guess right and you want to be like 85% sure you're going to get it, a co-transfer will move opposite charges, okay? Because they want to maintain electrical neutrality. So if they're moving a positive charge in, they'll move a negative in as well. Yeah.
The energy transporter, does it create an acid type?
Does it do what?
An acid type?
Acid, create an acid salt, is that what it says?
Acid type in the blood.
Salt, over here?
Yes, does it create an acid?
Well, not really. Here it'll, what else you got coming in here? Acid will go in there, you got bicarbonate here, so what you're gonna end up is gonna be carbon dioxide and water. Remember that? Carbonic anhydrase, the equation will go from carbonic acid, disassociate all by itself, but the enzyme helps it helps going in both directions, but more it helps going into, you'll notice these are opposite equations here. See, this one takes the proton and the bicarb and moves it to carbon dioxide and water. This one takes carbon dioxide and water, and it's going in both directions. All right? I don't know if I answered your question or not.
Thank you.
All right, let's try, okay, the anion exchange, so you're moving bicarb here. You need bicarb, right? So look what's happening. This is, again, in boxes. You got an exchanger here. Females asked me what happened to chloride, just like someone asked me what happened to acid, right? What happened to chloride? Did you ever taste your blood? You know when you cut yourself. It's salty, right? That's what happens to chloride, sodium chloride, right? No problem. Anyway, this is what we're dealing with, and these are the mechanisms the cell has to do this. This is the way they do it. And see, this is bicarb coming into the cell, sodium co-transfer, bicarb again, right? And you have this equation going on, bicarb again. Now, all this bicarb is put into here, okay? And we'll come back to this issue a little bit later. And this serves as a housekeeper, just like, remember in a parietal cell when you're making acid, you're pushing out the protons out of the cell, the acid. What's left behind? The alkali, right? And so you got to get rid of it. So that's called housekeeping. All of a sudden you started losing one of these, and the housekeeper goes, we got to get rid of the stuff left, whatever's left over. Here it's just the opposite. You're moving all the bicarb out of the cell, right? What's left over? The proton. And now the housekeeper gets turned on and gets rid of the proton. And this is the mechanism by which they have. I think you've had cell membrane a long time ago in foundation.
Yes.
Ions can't get through a membrane, right? They either need channels or transporters or something because they're water soluble. Okay? All right, so this is the mechanism they have of producing the bicarb. And that's written right here. And I think there's a story or narrative or whatever in the notes. Was that okay, by the way?
Yes.
I mean, just what you want me to do, that's the way it works, right? All right, let's take a look at epithelium itself. That's epithelial defense. All right, let's say, get whatever it is, gets through the mucus. Remember your tight junctions, if you get them, like occludins, claudins, things like that? Yeah.
Can you go back to
How many slides? We just started. One, two, one more.
So the gold transporters is always for two different charges and
All you're doing here is a neutralization reaction, right? The acid is being pumped out by the parietal, it's making acid, right? Your epithelial cells are putting bicarb into the lumen. They meet somewhere, well, if it would have been me, I would have drawn everything down here in the inner. If you don't have the inner layer, you're not going to be able to establish a gradient. Because acid or bicarb freely diffuses in that outer loose layer. There's nothing stopping it, okay?
here you said
hydrogen exchanger and sodium bicarbonate co-transporter. So,
They're exchangers.
yeah, the exchangers are always for the same charge.
What I'm trying to say is a generalization. You'll run into some examples. For example, these, you even have some sodium 2 bicarbs. But I don't know how many people, you gotta balance that cell. Usually, if this is what I'm trying to say, 90% of the time, if you're taking an exam or even thinking about it, if you're gonna be exchanging something, anion for anion, maintain the, didn't I say that before?
Yeah.
And cation for cation, if you're exchanging. Right? Arrows are going in the opposite direction, exchange. Right? That maintains electrical neutrality. If you're co-transporting, then you transport different charge with ions, okay? Because if you transport too much sodium, guess what happens? Sodium ATPase takes care of it. These systems get turned on to protect the cell, okay? All right, okay, here, epithelial tight junction. Here's the tight junction. Now, they refer to the gastric epithelium as a tight epithelium. The intestine will see in the duodenum, it's a loose epithelium, okay? Things move freely across the tight, not freely, but they're less restricted. What does that mean? Well, here you see the tight junction. These are 2 cells, 1 cell, another one next to each other, and they're held together by 1, 2, 3, 4 strands. So let's say if this is the duodenum, then the stomach will have 8 of these. Sometimes when people write books about tight junctions and tightness or leaky epithelium, they'll say the tight junctional complexes, they're more complex. So what are they saying? There's more strands there blocking things, okay? Because everything has to percolate through the tight junction. All right, let's say you break them, and that's shown here, okay? These are tight junctions, these are normal. And you got these, I like the way he does blue and red. I didn't do this, and I didn't copy from him, but he's attracting your attention to what's going wrong, okay? And this is the red, and you got the blue arrows bouncing off. Why? They can't get through a tight junction, whatever it is. It can be some toxin, that star, as soon as a toxin, then you got some bacteria and whatever else. Anyway, if they get through the tight junction, if the tight junctions are damaged, and we'll see later that bacteria pathogens can disrupt the tight junctions, okay, and look at the problem. At any rate, antigenic material will get through. Then you have your macrophages, they'll start an inflammatory response, and you haven't had that yet, we'll cover that, I'll cover that for you in the blood clot, inflammation, okay? But anyway, these are all immune cells, so it's an immune response, all right? Now, if it's a minor issue, you get some local inflammation, and it can resolve itself, all right? Anything a little more serious, you get systemic consequences. Well, you don't have cardiovascular. The interstitium drains into the lymphatics. Lymphatics end up in your blood, okay? You'll get that later. But anyway, it can spill over into your blood. Once it gets past that single layer of epithelium, you got a problem. And if it's serious, you get sepsis. You know what sepsis is? Yeah, the old folks, not me, the other old folks, they call it blood poisoning. You ever hear that? Yeah, so, and that's serious enough. But now that's systemic inflammation, and you go into multiple organ failure, all right? You end up in the ICU, basically. So that's the importance of tight junction and having them intact. Now, there's another thing I mentioned, repair of the epithelium. This is called restitution, and this is a cartoon with a lightning bolt or whatever. All right, I don't care how you do it. Now you can destroy 1 cell, 2 or 3 cells, or 10 cells. Now, if you destroy 1 cell, this process happens within seconds. You destroy more cells, it'll take longer. But generally within minutes, half hour, you get this repair. Now, do you get injury every day? Probably. If you think about it. Well, if you're eating that chicken we talked about, and there might be a little cartilage there, or small bone, or anything else that you might, if you're scratching that epithelium, you're destroying the cell. Okay? We'll come back to that again. At any rate, once these cells are dead, okay, cells death, detachment, good. Now all you got is your extracellular matrix or basement membrane. It's not going to stop a lot of things. It's sort of like you losing your dead junctions, right? The last slide. Look at it, same thing, except now you're just taking off these cells. Now that creates a pretty big hole here, right? It's no longer just a tight junction. It's the cells are gone, all right? So, what does that intestine do? These viable cells, are they columnar or what? The mucus cells? Huh? Yeah? Okay. Got that right. Anyway, they're drawn correctly then, sort of. Okay? I didn't do this, but anyway. These cells, they change their phenotype. It's called epithelial mesenchymal transition, EMT. You don't have to know that. I hope I didn't put it in the notes. But anyway, the phenotype changes. They become migratory. These cells now extend pseudopodia and start moving very rapidly to create a patch. That's what I call it. I don't know what other people call it. But basically, you can see what's happening here. All of a sudden, these cells are moving together. They created a patch. Now you've lost a bunch of cells, and these cells, let's say you damage here, this cell will convert. It'll stop functioning as a mucus cell, it'll start becoming migratory. And it creates a patch. Why do I say it creates a patch? These cells don't look anything like these cells, even histologically, okay? And that's because they're non-functional. They don't have the appropriate transporters, enzymes to do what they were originally designed to do up here. They're not columnar anymore, they're not polarized, they're non-functional. Okay, they created a patch though, prevented anything further from happening. This happened within minutes, okay? And long time ago, until we came to understand this, we studied this quite a bit. It's really, you can do it mathematically. You can plot the rate of repair, and it's exponential. It's the first order kinetics. That's the biological process that follows first order kinetics, if you can believe it. You can plot it on a semi-log, but never mind. Anyway, you have this patch. And people, histology, they used to do these experiments, induce injury. Then they go after the experiment, they go in, take a biopsy, and they go, no injury. I don't see any injury. Well, they were missing this part because they happened so fast, right? Let me finish this. Now, restitution occurs within minutes, okay? This is obviously a villus. Have you had intestinal histology yet? Or, do you know what a villus is? Yeah, it's in the intestine. But the same thing happens in the stomach. I just couldn't find the same kind of concept for slide. Here's your normal epithelium, then some damage, okay? And that's shown here. See that? Epithelial lining is gone. And this is happening in the intestine as well as the stomach. All right, these cells are attracting your attention to whatever color that is. Anyway, these cells, they're viable. They're not going to, but all of a sudden they've lost their attachment to their cells and they start migrating, okay? And look at this. It's called, okay, there it is, restitution. I'm not feeling, okay? Restitution. So it's covered. It's a patch. Now you got the word healing. Now you see this cell here? There's only 2 of them. Now there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. Finally, healing completed. The entire thing is covered again like it was before. Why does it take 3 to 5 days for this healing to occur? It's written there. Take a wild guess. Read the red part here. You have stem cells, right? They're always reproducing, right? They're always dividing, not reproducing, they're always dividing, differentiating, and migrating to the surface. Hey, can you take the argument outside? Go in the back alley. Behind the barn. Anyway, you understand what's going on. First, you have restitution. That happens rapidly. It creates a patch. Nothing further is going to get through. But it's not functional. It's not normal. And you'll see later in the villi, when you get to the intestine, all your activity, all the functional activity of the epithelium is in the upper third of the villi. Because these slides are still part of migratory response and differentiation maturation process, all right? So they don't become fully functional until the upper third of the villi. But that's why it takes 3, 4, 5 days for complete healing. But if you have to wait for just the healing and you didn't have this patch, you got a problem. Okay, so this restitution is considered very critical. Okay, go ahead. I'm here too. But we are attracting your is something with these presentations, all right? We're attracting your attention to how the cell gets the bicarb primarily to put it into the mucus. The cells actually have 1,000, who knows, 10,000 transporters all over the place, exchangers. But we're only showing you two. You think that this cell only has these three? It has many more. As a matter of fact, we don't even refer to sodium ATP. No, we don't even refer to sodium ATP here. So we're just, these cartoons are designed to focus your attention on how the cell primarily gets the bicarb to move it into the mucus, okay? There's other transport. And I bring up a housekeeper, but we brought it up in varietal cells, because you gotta do something with what's left over. Hey, can you guys go outside? Hey, Wild, outside, Wild. Behind the barn. What? You get the feeling of that. Okay. But that's what I ask him to do all the time, right? Just go outside, don't stay in here and start talking. That's it. No, it's true. If you have a problem, do it outside. Don't disturb the rest of the class. You see, if you wouldn't have started clapping, I wouldn't be in trouble. I guess they're not going to give me lunch tomorrow. Hey, let's get back to this. Mucosal blood flow, okay? Now, we all know that if you create ischemia, you know what that is? That lowering blood flow enough that you lower oxygen to the organ, that's bad for you, right? Anytime you get a lowering of blood flow, it's not good, right? We don't want to do that, so, okay? But let's talk about it. Oh, you like this? You got to memorize? You want to memorize that? Nah, neither do I. Anyway, don't worry about this. You don't have to know it. But this shows you the general idea. The red is the arteriole coming from the submucosa. Have you had this yet, the surgery microcirculation? No? Okay, and this is in the submucosa here. This is submucosal vein, submucosal arteriole. And the artery comes up into the gastric pit. You see that? Remember the shape of the bride? Always going to show you this kind of a shape, okay? So the blood comes up here, comes down, and then enters the vein and leaves. But the important part is it's coming up this way, right? Towards the surface. This creates this kind of a honeycomb appearance if you're looking straight down and you're looking at blood flow. Anyway, now this is the blow up of this area. And remember, when you make acid, you pump protons into the gastric pit. Right? Can you see that? It's in white, and on the other side, housekeeper, you got protons coming out to make acid, and you got bicarb going. It's called an alkaline tie. Remember that? Well, look at the way the circulation works. It goes up here, and all the bicarb ends up at the surface to provide this right here, bicarb. Okay? It's a beauty. Now what's going on? If you think about this a little bit, you'll see this one for one. You remove by 10,000 molecules of proton, you remove 10,000 molecules of bicarb. So every time you make acid, you make enough bicarb to make sure it gets neutralized. Nice little system, huh? So if you reduce blood flow, you can see that there's going to be a problem. You're going to start losing your bicarbonate gradient. That protects your epithelium, okay? Is that cute? Nice picture. All right, last ditch effort. All these things are failing, okay? I don't know, something went wrong. You're eating, well, we'll get to NSAIDs in a minute. Not in a minute. Well, yeah, in a minute. Something went wrong, okay? And just look, no more mucus layer. Epithelium's getting destroyed over here. And you got acid and pepsin, okay? And acid will activate sensory nerves in the interstitium, okay? Now we had CGRP before, that's calcitonin gene-related peptide. It's in the notes or whatever. And what's happening here is once this interstitium gets acidified, it knows that the mucus bicarbonate, well, it doesn't know it. The acid reacts with it, right? It has acid channels and it detects acid. It can detect acid as low as pH 6, pH 5.5. But the interstitium is not made to see pH 2. Well, no cell is really. But anyway, you got it activated by acid, not pepsin. Don't make that mistake. But it's activated to have acid channel. And then you go up here, CGRP. It releases through another interneuron nitric oxide. Oh, you know what nitric oxide does? I think you have it in the TBL right now. But nitric oxide will induce mucus bicarb secretion, but it also causes blood vessel dilation. That's when it was first discovered. You guys won the Nobel Prize for that, for EGR, endothelial derived relaxing factor. It relaxes blood vessels. Hyperemia, you know what that means? Increased blood flow. That's all it means. Hyperemia, more blood flow, okay? Anytime you see the word, I think hopefully it's defined. All right, how important is it? But see what it's doing now? Everything's broken down. What is it doing? Blood flow going up, and they're trying to make more mucus cover this up and let the ulcer heal. Because at this stage of the game, you're talking probably a small ulcer or a large ulcer. Let's look at ulcers. They call it ulcer area here. Well, it's I call it ulcer side. Is that better for you instead of area? It's a big hole, right? Let's look at it that way, okay? But if you've never seen an ulcer on an endoscopy or something, it's hard to describe it. But, all right, see the blue? That's wild type. Wild type just simply means normal, in the wild. Nobody has genetically altered them, okay? And this symbol, when you have these double negatives up there, CGRP, it's a knockout. Or it's CGRP deficient animal. Why? They took out the gene that makes it. They don't have the protein, they can't make it. So these animals do not have CGRP. Mice are really easy to manipulate genetically. And as you get bigger, like in rats, less easy. And we can't do it in large animals. Almost all your experiments with genetically altered animals are in mice, yeah. Anyway, CGRP is gone. Okay, let's look at the normal animal. The ulcer, as days go by, heals. It gets smaller, smaller. That's healing, right? It started out big, and now it's small. The mice that were deficient in part of this arc, reflex arc, they don't heal very well, okay? So that's the last ditch effort you have of saving your stomach, so to speak, from acid. Okay. Prostaglandins, you haven't had that yet? By the way, GI should come last, tell somebody. Because a lot of this material, you haven't had cardiovascular yet, and cyclooxygenase, obviously it's an enzyme, and you get it, I think, in the next semester, and prostaglandins are pretty important. But anyway, prostaglandins impact all the defensive forces, okay? And they turn on an aggressive force. Okay, they turn off an aggressive force, sorry. Now I'm thinking ahead on the NSAIDs. But anyway, prostaglandins, what do they do? If you've got an increase in prostaglandins, more mucus, more bicarb. Okay? If you have increase in prostaglandins, you turn off the parietal cell. That's good, right? You don't want acid. Is that right? That's a good thing. And they also are vasodilators, and they help with epithelial restitution. So they're doing everything that's good and also trying to stop something that may be aggressive. Okay? Peptic ulcer disease. Now at this stage, you guys want to break or keep going? We'll just get out earlier, that's all. All right? So you have two choices here. All right? You either increase damage or you impair the defense. This is, kind of makes sense, right? I mean, and this is from a pathology book they show you, okay? And by the way, aspirin is an NSAID as well, they list it separately. Yeah, we'll cover this. All right. Cyclooxygenase, okay? That's COX-1. They have a COX-2, but that's COX-2 only gets, it has to be induced by some kind of inflammation or problem, okay? Then it gets induced. But COX-1 is constitutive, it sits there and it's operating all the time, okay? And what, housekeeping. Every time you see housekeeping or something else like that, you always have it, you know, taking care of business, right? Anyway, NSAID, you've heard of those? Non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, NSAID? Aspirin, you buy them over the counter, right, for relief of pain. Rheumatoid arthritis, people take a lot of them, and they get ulcers. That's why we're talking about NSAID. It's if you're taking NSAID for a long time or too high of a dose, there's a pretty good chance you're going to develop gastric problems, okay? We'll show you that in a minute. Anyway, NSAID, this sign means inhibit, so you don't get prostaglandin generation. And again, in the box, I'm showing you PGE2. If you have problems with PGF2, this is prostacyclin, that's thromboxane. Don't worry about it. You'll get that later in biochem. Thromboxane deals with platelets a lot, for aggregation of platelets. But we're not worried about that. PGE2 is the one we want to talk about. And remember that in a parietal cell, we had PGE2 as an inhibitory factor. Remember that there was two blue ones, somatostatin, the B cell somatostatin receptor, and a PGE2 receptor. Yeah, prostaglandin. But I'm not going to go into it. Is it PGE2, PG1, PGI2? That's the I2 family or whatever. But you see, there's different kinds. There's a lot of them. All right. You'll have to get used to that in the literature. You know, like the different receptors. All right. At any rate, now that you have NSAIDs on board, guess what? You don't have prostaglandins, right? It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out what's going to happen. Okay? Now you lower your prostaglandin, decrease mucus and byproduct. Right? It was putting them up, right? It was helping. Decrease prostaglandin, acid secretion goes up. You remove just the opposite of what we had before. Decrease prostaglandin, blood flow goes down. They're almost all vasodilators. Prostacyclin, the reason I know it's used clinically to induce vasodilation, okay? Some of these other ones are not very readily synthesized. And you have if it gets injured, it doesn't restitute as well. You need prostaglandins for that. All right? And see that arachidonic acid? The reason I don't have a specific cell telling you that it's making the prostaglandin, it comes from membrane, a variety of cells. Okay? There's phospholipids in your membrane, arachidonic acid, and then COX-1 works on that, okay? So you'll get that in biochem. Sorry?
What's the function of COX-1?
What's the function of prostaglandin? COX-1? See this is, when you see this, you've had some biochem, right? When you see that kind of arrow, it means this enzyme is working to move it. Like carbonic anhydrase, we put an arrow, it's going to move a reaction. All right? So COX-1 takes arachidonic acid, turns it into PGH2, prostaglandin hydroxylase, and then that determines which is downstream. So you're inhibiting prostaglandin production almost at its source. Does that make sense? But you're going to have plasma membranes on every cell. So it's hard to pick which one's good. You just have them, right? All right, this is a summary slide for NSAID. Inhibits cyclooxygenase, and therefore you don't have prostaglandin. Okay? All right, and what's happening? All your defensive forces here, okay? Mucus production decreased, bicarb decreased, right? Epithelial restitution decreased, blood flow decreased. You don't want this stuff happening. On top of that, you increase the damaging force. You're allowing acid to increase, okay? There's no break on the acid. And they also have a direct cytotoxic effect. We won't get into that really, but they're cytotoxic in themselves, okay? So NSAID pretty much compromise everything you have that protects you. And they turn on an aggressive factor, acid, okay? And you know the NSAIDs lead to ulcers, right? If we have them. Did you know that? This is what it happens. You take too many of them and you've lost all your defense. Acid takes over. Acid and peptide. You look back to pylori, all right? You've heard of that, Buck? Well, you had it on GBL, I think. You look back to pylori, okay? It got little flagella and everything. It colonizes your stomach. No one's really sure why it's limited to the stomach, but it usually stays in the stomach. Anyway, 50% of the human population has H. pylori. Now, that also includes not just places like Riyadh, where we have reasonable hygiene, taking care of water and waste, okay? But in remote areas where they don't have access to the kind of, infrastructure that you have in a larger city or something, right? So that includes the whole world, all right? Well, let's pretend it's this class, and half of you don't have H. pylori. I didn't mean to pick on them, or you guys have H. pylori, okay? That's half, right? All right, let's keep going with this stuff. Now, 20% of H. pylori infected people are going to get older. All right, that's a pretty big number. So, 20% of you guys on this half, you're going to get older. Let's say it's the first two rows, okay? You're going to get older. H. pylori. The rest of you with H. pylori, no problem. All right? Now, let's get to this part. 89% of the people with ulcers are going to have H. pylori. You get the logic? That means these two rows, they have ulcers, right? We also know they have H. pylori. We just told you that. Is that right? So if you think about it, why are you laughing? We're making you laugh. But it's not too hard to figure out, is it? Now, we have H. pylori. Everyone got that, right? We have H. pylori with humans. I don't have to be what they call evolutionary geneticists or something, but they figured out that we've been harboring or allowing H. pylori to be with humans for 60,000 years. So the issue is, wait a minute, why didn't we get rid of it if it's bad? Usually things like that disappear, people don't live long enough to reproduce, etc., whatever, die from ulcers, But they say it must be doing something good, right? Otherwise you wouldn't have kept it. And so the clinicians are really smart. They go, yeah. You know what they're doing now? If you gotta know, they're trying to eradicate these bugs. It's considered a pathogen. And they go, well, when we get rid of it, we'll find out what goes wrong with humans. And you already have a few pathologies that are starting to show up in people who don't have H. pylori. All right, one more thing about H. pylori. You had in TBL, I'll try to address everything here. You notice these bugs, I don't know if you can see that or not. Again, I didn't draw that. You've seen my drawing, but anyway, this is pretty. And here you got gastric, and that's right about the thickness actually, because the mucus layer gets thicker as you approach the antrum. Anyway, you have an inner layer, there it is, an outer layer, and these are bacteria, and you notice they don't have flagella, whereas these in the inner layer have flagella. Okay? So if you look back, the flagella is pretty important. Okay? Now, they have spatial orientation. Now, you'll notice here that the H. pylori are not going down into here, right? But they have no problem going down into here. Now, why is that? You guys are catching on to my red squares? See, that's a parietal cell. They didn't draw it the way I'd like it, but so what? They're all square, so, open and close doesn't matter. It's a cartoon. But that's right, parietal cells make acid. Now, H. pylori has what they call spatial orientation or whatever. If you put you can't really do this, but let's pretend you put H. pylori in the middle of the slide, put some acid on this side, neutral on this side, it's going to swim away from the acid. It's going to go toward the neutral pH. All right? So it's always going to go to where there is no acid, to where it's neutral. Also, if you remember the bicarbonate gradient? Yeah. The pH is lower, pH 7, and here's pH 2, and they're going to swim down to where the pH is more away from the acid, right? Okay? Otherwise they can't colonize. You can kill H. pylori just like any other bug. All right? That's not a problem. Is that it? Okay. Now, we got all these things. That's called spatial orientation, moves toward a neutral environment. And also you have less than 1%. It's probably even less than that. By the way, the guy who discovered H. pylori, he won the Nobel Prize for that. And I think he should have gotten 2 or 3 Nobel Prizes. He drank the stuff. Yeah. I'm mad when I meet him. Anyway, he believed in himself so much about it. He ended up with halitosis and a bad breath and pride. Anyway, only 1% of everything you take in is going to make it through the acid. Now, every bacteria, you can kill it. You put it in a test tube, add acid, pH 2, 1, or whatever you want to add. Well, it's got to be pretty low. And with pepsin, even more you kill it. Okay? And we saw that. A high school experiment showed you that, right? That chicken disappeared. Anyway, you kill them, all right? But flagella helps it escape. Okay? Now, you had urease, remember that? And even in GDL. And actually, that was the right answer. I think I told you guys about this. If you nothing's ever black and white, so if you have a reasonable explanation for something, you get credit for it, okay? So get up to the mic and talk about it. But urease here, and urea is everywhere. Someone asked me about that. But urea is so small, it just diffuses everywhere, okay? So there's plenty in the stomach. You don't have to give it. It's got it. And it uses its urease. Urease is, and I have a description, I hope, in the narrative. And it's in the membrane or close to the membrane, and it keeps the pH neutral, okay? And it creates what they call a cloud or something just around the bacteria. Now, it is very true that if you have a Helicobacter and you put it into acid and pepsin, all of them will be dead, let's say, in an hour. I'm making that up, but they'll be dead in an hour. Depends on pH, right? And pepsin, they'll be dead in an hour. They were just using acid, so acid. Now, if they added urea, that H. pylori lives longer. So it will live longer, okay? That's not a problem. So urease, that helps. But if you think about this bacteria making a little ammonia, ammonia is a base, right? Yeah, okay, so it makes a base to try to neutralize the acid that's close to it and try to maintain as much as they can, normal pH in this cytoplasm. So this cloud around this bug, you think it's going to be able to protect it forever against the amount of acid that you secrete by the parietal cells in the stomach? Eventually they're going to get killed, right? Unless they end up going down to the, where it's neutral, almost because the epithelial surface. And they go down to the tight junction. Now, one of the choices was flagella, remember that? Urease also helps flagella. Why? Well, if they take Helicobacter pylori and lower the pH, which I talked about, one of the things that happens is the H. pylori just stops swimming and too slow. Flagella don't work. They can't go anywhere, okay? They just sit there and wait to die, right? But with the urease, they create, if you raise the pH, let's say without urease, just raise the pH, flagella are functional. So a low pH inhibits flagellar motion in these bugs, okay? So they have a very limited time. They have all these things to help them survive. Urease to create a little cloud, flagella, and an orientation to get away from the acid and go down to the epithelium. But still, 99% of them are going to die. But all you need is 1%, right? 1%. And you've got one bug, that's enough. Once that bug is happy, don't forget it eats mucin. It uses as a nutrient source. Yeah. Mucin is a glycoprotein, right? Sugar protein. They use it, they can chop the sugar moiety and they can attack the protein. They have the appropriate enzymes. A lot of bugs do, as a matter of fact. The mucin in your colon, a lot of bacteria use it as an energy source, nutrient, okay? All right, is this so far making sense?
Yes.
All right. See, all you have to do is go up to the mic and say they use flagella, they need the flagella to get through the mucus. Good answer. No, really. Or, well, I think they destroyed the mucin. Good answer. You didn't have to say that they have enzymes. They destroyed the mucin. Okay, they eat it. All right. Good enough? Urea. Now, a little clinical thing for you. I know from the females, I know you didn't have how they test for lactase deficiency or lactase intolerance. You never had any of that? You never have sugars, glucose, galactose? No. What happens when you eat dairy products? If you're lactose intolerant? They even have lactose-free in the grocery store for people who are lactose intolerant, right? Okay, so you can buy products that don't have it, right? Anyway, gases are important, okay, because we can measure them. Oh, you have a respiratory, right? You know that the respiratory, they take the gases and push them out, so some people say in goes the good air, out goes the bad air. Well, it depends on where you live. If you're in New Delhi right now, in goes the bad air, out goes the bad. Anyway, what they do is urea has one carbon. And why don't they measure this? They're measuring carbon dioxide, right? You can just measure carbon dioxide. Well, it's not in the blood, it'll come to the lungs and come out. Why not use carbon dioxide? Yeah, who said you have enough? No one wants to raise their hand. That's a good answer. Your body makes it. We've seen CO2 in almost every slide. CO2 and water, it's all over the place, right? So your own body makes carbon dioxide, carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide. So what they do is they radio label the carbon on urea, okay, carbon 13 or carbon 14, and they can measure it with a counter when you're breathing out. And you do this in your office. The amount of radioactivity here is 1,000 times less than an X-ray when you go to a dentist or something like that, It's really minimal. But it tells you my story. Because there's only one carbon, the only place it can end up on is carbon dioxide. Okay? So if the person has urease in the stomach, you're going to get radiolabeled carbon dioxide, right? Remember this equation? Carbon dioxide. You're going to get it if you have urease, right? Because urease will attack the urea. They don't care that the carbon is radiolabeled. The urease will just cut the urea, right? You got carbon dioxide. And you measure it. Now, if it goes up in the breath, that means you got urease in the stomach. That means what? You have Helicobacter. Is that right? Well, it's one of the few there are some others, but it's one of the few bacteria that if a patient comes to you with problems with the stomach, gastritis, inflammation, unable to eat, whatever, you, the physician, are going to check for Helicobacter pylori. The first thing you're going to ask them, are you taking NSAIDs? If you're taking a lot of NSAIDs, we saw what they do. That's okay. If you don't have urease, then chances are you don't have Helicobacter, all right? So, CO2. But you can read this, right? All right? Not a big deal. This is your Helicobacter. A part of the story. Again, I didn't draw this. It's cute. They use flagella to go toward the neutral pH. We know that. They have a spatial orientation. They know where to go. If they had flagella that didn't have the spatial orientation, they could go here, back up, but they head for the neutral pH, which is at the epithelial lining, okay? Then they have adhesion molecules, which interact with epithelial cell cognate receptors, okay? And usually the Helicobacter will end up, most of your interaction with the epithelium would be within the tight junctional area. Not in the middle of the cell, but on where the tight junctions are, around the edges, okay? And they produce toxins and stuff like that. We'll get that down here, but that destroy the tight junctions. All right, here they show you the urease. That's not a problem. It's a little cloud. We got a lot of acid out here. Anyway, once the bacteria is down here, it's got a neutral pH, got plenty of food, it's happy. What are they going to do? Well, it's time to reproduce, right? Okay, it's time to divide. And so they divide so they won't be lonely. You get a lot of them. Now when you have a lot of them, destroying tight junction and all kinds of, what I call garbage, but all kinds of antigen-type molecules that will activate your immune system. And here they're showing neutrophils, leukocytes coming in either. That's the way you would draw a neutrophil. And we haven't studied these things, and they made some things that attracts neutrophils. They make it themselves. We even gave it a name. Anyway, that was a long time ago. But anyway, they because they're eating, okay, this person says mucinase. That's kind of a general term. They actually have certain saccharidases that can destroy the glycosyl bonds and whatever on the sugar moiety. I'm not sure about the actual accuracy of a mucinase. Okay, they're going to either attack the sugar or the peptide portion of the glycoprotein. Okay, but nonetheless, it's telling you the story. They destroy the mucin layer, they destroy cells, and you get cell death and inflammation. Okay, so that's how you get gastritis. Now they also can resist. They tolerate the immune system, so it's very difficult for you to get rid of it. That's why you're always going to have H. pylori and irritation of the stomach. Okay. All right, we talked about NSAID, we talked about H. pylori. Okay. The red is people that are using NSAID. Whatever color that is, gray, I guess, are controlled. They don't use NSAID. Okay, they're normal. I shouldn't say they're like you, because you might be using NSAID. I don't know. But anyway, they're H. pylori negative, and they don't use NSAID. So, okay. 149 of these people, they didn't have anything. Now, they're not using NSAID. It's not red. They're normal. I mean, not normal. They're just not using this drug, NSAID. But they're H. pylori positive. And we talked about that. 20% are going to get an ulcer, right? That's what that came from. 20%. Now, if they're using NSAID, but they don't have H. pylori, again, 20% of them. That's quite a lot of patients they study. They get off. But if you have H. pylori and you have rheumatoid arthritis or something, and you're taking a lot of NSAID for the pain, about half will get that. Well, it's a kind of serious thing, and that's why clinicians will always ask you, are you on NSAID? And then if you're not, we're going to test you for H. pylori, okay? But either way, this is almost 6% of the people that was studied. Okay, they were doing both. Yeah.
Doctor, what is leukocytes?
Hmm?
What is leukocytes? The previous slide.
What is what?
What the previous slide? Leukocytes.
Leukocyte.
Yeah.
The white blood cells are part of the white blood cells. He's asking what are the leukocytes? Does anybody else know? They're white blood cells, and they're a whole family. Neutrophils are the ones that are coming. I'll cover inflammation for you when we get to the blood clots, okay? You don't have to worry about it now. Okay, nothing like moving too fast, right? I'm not a ballet dancer, you know that. All right, now let's look at some pretty practical things about what's going on, so you remind you about some things. We have, remember when you read about mucus, they usually refer to it as alkaline mucus, right? Is that about right? Well, in the esophagus here, you see, once you're in the stomach, you have acid, okay? Acid. And it can go in two directions only, right? I also tell the same thing about, are you going to vomit or are you going to have diarrhea? Well, if the irritation's in the upper part, where's the closest opening? If the irritation's in the lower part, where's the closest opening? You're going to be running to the bathroom with diarrhea, right? You're not going to take it all the way back up. Well, there is a pathology where you can have fecal vomiting, but let's not get into it. All right, we need to have fistulas and all that. Anyway, you can have two openings, right, where the acid and pepsin can go, right? Here, did you cover submucosal glands in the esophagus? Did you get that? They're in the submucosal. There's a few of them. But they make an alkaline mucus, right? Yeah. Most of them are going to be located in this area here, all right? So that they're trying to, not very good, but they're trying, okay? Now, we know the stomach has mucus, bicarbonate gradient, what more could you want, right? You get to the duodenum, you have the same thing. You have submucosal glands, except they're called Brunner's glands. Again, alkaline mucus. You have goblet cells. Remember, did you have intestines? No. But in the intestine, they're called goblet cells, basically, because they look like goblets. Anyway, they develop a mucus bicarbonate gradient. It's not as powerful, it's not as great of a gradient, it's weaker than what's present in the stomach, okay? But they also have pancreas, and you'll get that next week. The pancreas has a duct that comes down into the upper part of the duodenum, and what does the pancreas make? A lot of bicarb. It just dumps all that blood. So the duodenum, which ordinarily, that's the direction of flow, usually, not this way, but it can go that way, vomiting or something, we'll get to that. But anyway, the duodenum is well protected, esophagus not so well, okay? But then usually material doesn't go back, okay? All right, now let's look at the sphincter. I like that one, sphincteric side, I'm done with using, shows all the sphincters. It gives you a general idea that things are compartmentalized in the body. There's compartments. In this case, we're talking about acid and pepsin. So let's leave it there. The esophagus doesn't want acid and pepsin, and neither does the duodenum. So let's, keep them closed and leave everything else alone, right? There's other compartments too. We'll get to that. Urocecal junction, things like that nature. But at any rate, you got a pressure here that closes this, and normal is between 1545, about 30. Now get to gastroesophageal reflux in a minute, and here you have a pylorus. And remember, when it opens, it's only 2 millimeters. You need the MMC to clear anything you didn't digest. Okay, everything. You see the word minimize? It's not all or none. It's not going to prevent anything, but it will minimize the effects of toxic materials. This is Guyton has this picture. All right. Now, granted, it's old, but look what it got. High acid and peptic content. Yeah, we know that, right? Okay. Irritation. Okay, that's a pretty general term. Your endochromatin cells will respond to that. Poor blood supply. We know that. What's next? Poor secretion of mucus. Okay. He didn't mention bicarb, but I'm sure it is. And then infection. And then H. pylori. It's a little bit behind, but everything's there. Now, you'll notice that where the ulcers occur are in the upper part over here, where they're entering into the duodenum. Okay. As you expected, at the highest concentration. And towards the esophagus. By the way, the cardia, I'll bring you up to date on this. You notice I haven't mentioned it. The cardia, when, obviously there has to be an autopsy or biopsy, but half of the human sample don't have a cardia. So what is that? So you start thinking about what? And so clinicians now is prompted they can't test it because it's humans, you can't do that. But they say because of damage, they've changed the morphology of the cell. But basically, did you have Barrett's esophagus? Well, what is that? That's the stomach-like cells going into the esophagus, right? So, and the cardia is kind of similar to that. The closet, it's only a small portion, okay? And some people, most people don't even draw the cardia anymore when they're drawing cartoons. I think they know that. But anyway, half of the people don't have one. So what does that tell you? There's probably no such thing, right? It's just what you see there is the result of irritation, damage, and mucus type cells moving in. Okay. If a person has PUD, peptic ulcer disease, then it's going to be a pain, and it's going to be relieved by antacid, obviously. Or the physician will give them proton pump inhibitor, and if you suspect Helicobacter, you can try to eradicate it with antibiotics. And you give 3 or 4 different kinds of antibiotics to make sure they kill it, okay? And you're just hoping it doesn't become resistant. Okay? Anyway, you can't tell whether it's a duodenal ulcer or whether it's gastric ulcer. The reason I'm laughing, I thought of another story for you. Anyway, endoscopy, take a look. That's the best way. The only way you can really know where these ulcers are, how serious they are, is to take a look. And endoscopy helps you do that. Now, remember NSAID? Never mind. Remember NSAID? Well, I don't have a slide of this, I give it to the third year. But there's about 36 different NSAIDs they're trying to market now for approval. And they're always looking for an NSAID that will alleviate pain and not cause the ulcer, right? That's the ultimate goal of a pharmaceutical company. Big pharma, right? They know what they're doing, but they're developing all these things. Well, they first started out, this is a long time ago, okay, so let's forgive everybody. But when they first started out, like with aspirin, and said it causes injury. People will read it when you buy it, you know, that don't take too much of a cause injury. Don't give it to children, you know, that kind of stuff. All right, well, they tried buffered aspirin. You know what that is? They coated it with a buffer so that it resist the acid and get to the small intestine, and then, you know, the product, whatever it is. You relieve the pain and you won't cause gastric ulcer because it's not in the stomach anymore, right? Then they tried the slow release, so it's mostly released in the intestine somewhere. Well, it prevented gastric ulcer. But basically, when they took a look downstream, they just moved the ulcer downstream. Now these people had duodenal and intestinal ulcers, so they just moved the injury downstream. They didn't know they were doing it, okay? Hey, no gastric ulcer, got it, you know. And the pharmaceutical companies are selling it, but later on they found out that the intestine is blown away. All right, now if it goes up to the esophagus, did we cover GRD? We didn't, you know. You have gastroesophageal reflux, all of us will have it occasionally, it's called heartburn, but you won't have the disease. The disease is when it happens chronically, okay? You keep exposing that tissue to acid and pepsin, eventually something's going to give, okay? And basically, most people that have the disease, GERD, that's what the D stands for, they're going to have their LES pressures at low, less than 10 millimeters per mercury.
Hello, boss. How are you?
Good.
This is my favorite subject.
Is it? Yeah. Well, you're not going to yell at me. It's not going to believe it's last.
No.
Oh. But anyway, can I finish the slide?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. At any rate, usually we all get gastroesophageal reflux, right? But to get GRD, most of the people that get gastroesophageal reflux disease, they have low LES pressure than normal. That's less than 10, okay? And that's just a cartoon. That's what it would look like on an endoscopy.
Hi. No, go back. No. Go back to the slide.
No, I will take attendance.
No. Go back to the slide. Yeah. So besides the low. Hi. Right. So besides the weak lower esophageal sphincter, there's other factors that can lead to GERD. Number two. This is number one. Number two is having the lower esophageal sphincter in the mediastinum rather than being in the abdomen when you have a short esophagus. Number three, you have widening of the crust of the diaphragm. So when the diaphragm opening, where the esophagus moves from the mediastinum into the abdominal cavity, the crust of the diaphragm are weak and there's a gap where there's a hiatus hernia. You can also be in risk for gastroesophageal reflux. Correct, boss? Correct?
Not good boss there. You have him in the third year. He teaches all this.
All right. Anyway, so I don't want to interrupt the lecture.
Half of the people are gone, and the whole attendance sheet is filled. So people were signing for each other. So we're trying everything we can to keep this a straight system, or nice system. Anyway, you know about GRD, right? And he gave you another call. Everything's going to get a little bit more explained and complicated when you get to the third year for the advance, okay? I think we will finish.
Everything takes into account of the item.
calm down, let's try to finish this up. Okay? So we covered this, all right? Now let's cover something that's pretty interesting as well. It's called the Zollinger-Ellison syndrome. One of the people, guess what? One of the people that discovered all of this was named Zollinger. Guess what the name of the other person was? Ellison. Zollinger-Ellison syndrome. All right? And what is it? I'm telling you something ahead of time. These physicians did not know that at the time. They have to come up with this, okay? That's why their names are up there. They made a name for themselves. I'll explain that. Anyway, you see, there's a gastronome. You know what oma means? Tumor. Some kind of tumor, right? This tumor, because it's gastronoma, guess what it secretes? Gastric. And there's going to be other nomas that secrete other endocrine type, like EBC cells, other peptides. Okay? As long as something goes bizarre. And most of them, about 80%, show up in the pancreas. Okay? That's the way it is. But it's not G cells. It's a tumor. Okay? Yeah.
This reminds me, when I studied gastric secretions, they say that
We'll go over it, all right? Then we can talk. All right? So, sometimes if you wait, your questions might get answered, all right? Hopefully. Anyway, it's not under normal control. This is a tumor, okay? So, what else is going on here? If you think about it, they've shown you hyperacidity in the duodenum, right? What does that do? Well, we know the pH optimum for pepsin. Now, instead of pepsin being neutralized, it's active in the duodenum. And it says pepsin is a nasty enzyme, right? And the pancreatic enzyme activity, they don't work. You don't know this yet, but the pancreatic enzymes operate around 7.5, maybe even some at 8. So, here we're bringing up steatorrhea. Some of you may know what it is. Steatorrhea. It just means fat in the stool, okay? Now, that's due to a deficiency in a pancreatic enzyme called lipase, lipolytic, lipids, right? Lipase. You'll get that later, next week, beginning of next week, pancreas and liver, right? So you'll get that, and through the lipase. Why do we bring up steatorrhea? Because that's, as opposed to, let's say, protein problem. You know, you don't have an enzyme for, you don't have protein, okay? Or you don't have amylase. That's a sugar problem. Because steatorrhea will be noticed by everyone. It's a gray colored stool, okay, sticky, not that you're going to touch it or anything, but it'll stick to the bowl or whatever. But the most obvious sign is it stinks. It smells terrible. They say malodor. So if you have steatorrhea, it may not be diarrhea, you know. If you have steatorrhea, you'll know about it. You won't be able to stand it, and you're going to go see a doctor. Or if your partner or whatever, someone living with you, gets steatorrhea, you're going to ask him to go see someone about it. It's just that bad, okay? And that's why steatorrhea is common use. A wife will send her husband to see a doctor because, hey, there's something wrong here, you know? Okay, so steatorrhea is lipids in the stool. And how does this work? This is the lesson. I mean, I didn't. If you guys would have started clapping and everything, we would have been done by now, right? Think about it. Anyway, Zollinger-Ellison syndrome. All right, remember the feed. Let's look at the simple feedback, just as a review. I told you this is going to be a review. That's okay. We have time. All right, so gastrin makes, again, G cells make gastrin. We know that, right? Gastrin ends up in the blood. Then it ends up, look at, see that, remember that? 3 arrows to the ECL cell makes histamine. The gastrin-histamine axis. That's the most important, okay? Gastrin itself is a real thin arrow and only one going to the parietal cell, right? But histamine makes acid. So the bottom line is you have gastrin and you have acid. Acid comes down here to the D cell, right? And turns it on. The D cell makes somatostatin, SST, somatostatin. It turns off the acid, right? So you got a Newtonian type of feedback loop. Too much acid, turns it off. Too little acid, turns it on. Okay? Everything's working nice. All right? Now, let's add something here. And this is secretin. Now, I think we covered it. You have the estrel, makes secretin. The best stimulus for secretin is a low pH. Once you get the low pH 4, secretin starts going up, okay? And pancreatic bicarb starts going up. That's what secretin does. Secretin also comes up here, and most of it is through a neural reflex. It comes up and hits the D cell, stimulates it, so it turns off acid too. So acid turns off D cell at the level of the stomach, and acid coming here also turns off acid. Make sense? All right. So what do? These patients, they will have high acid and high gastric, which to them doesn't make sense. You go, well, if you have high acid, you should turn off gastric. What's going on here? All right. So they go, okay. And what we do nowadays is a provocation test. You know what provocation is? Don't provoke someone bigger than you, because you know what's going to happen? They'll beat you up. So don't provoke. Don't challenge someone. Don't provoke. So the other word in the clinic is a challenge. A challenge dose. Okay. So they're provoking the system. They're injecting secretin in order to turn off gastrin. So they did this. And what would be the effects on gastrin?
It's not going down.
Huh?
I'm guessing it's not going down because it's too much.
Well, there you go. That's good. And you know what? They got their names on there. What happened is plasma gastrin don't change. Why is that? Because it's a tumor. Well, but what they didn't know that at the time. What they knew is that this is outside the feedback loop. This is not normal. Then they went looking for the source of gastrin. They said, it's got to be coming from somewhere else. Because as far as we're concerned, the D cells should already be maximally activated because they got high acid. And on top of that, they can't turn off the gastrin anymore. It should be maximum. So it's got to be coming from somewhere else, and they found the tumor. Some of the tumors will be found in the upper small intestine, but most will be in the pancreas. Okay, outside the negative feedback loop. And of course, the tumor doesn't have a handy somatostatin producing cell next to it, so nothing happens. Okay, this is the last part, is vomiting, emesis. And it gives me a chance to introduce vagal afferent and sympathetic afferent. All right, everyone that thinks about the vagus is always thinking about it's doing something, right? And it does. Okay, it's a very important controller in the GI tract. But about 70, depending on who you read, 70 to 80% of the fibers in the vagus are afferent. That means 70 to 80% are sensing and sending a message either locally or up to the central nervous system, okay? In the sympathetic branch of the autonomic nervous system, 50% are afferent, okay? But still, that's telling you that all the autonomic nervous system, most of it, is sending signals away from the GI tract. And here you have, well, that's just a guiding figure. You can't tell, but okay. Afferent's coming up. Sympathetics go through the spinal cord and up to center in the brain. I like the name of this center. It's called the vomiting center. You know what it's going to do, right? I like it. When they name these kind of things that make sense, I appreciate it, okay? I don't have to memorize some bizarre words, you know? Anyway, they come up there. Then you send them. The efferents aren't shown here, but then they come down primarily on diaphragm and abdominal muscles, okay? Let's take a look at that. This is a cartoon from somewhere, but it illustrates the system quite well. And it's ejection of the vomiting act, if you will. Whatever you want to call it. Ejection, I like. Reflex contraction. You're going to get your abdominal, that's what they're showing you here. Abdominal muscles contract, diaphragm also contract. But what's happening here is kind of important. The stomach does not contract. It's the abdominal muscles and the diaphragm that are squeezing the stomach. Okay? Now you have two choices when you squeeze the stomach, remember? You can either go up into the esophagus or down into the intestine. Guess what? Your pylorus is closed, right? It's kind of obvious where it's going to go, right? So anyway, what happens is you got pressure increases in the thorax, and you haven't had pulmonary yet. You get that cardiovascular and pulmonary beginning of next semester, right? So you get pulmonary. Pulmonary pressure is negative. That's the way you breathe. You create a negative pressure. But anyway, that pressure goes up, and eventually it overcomes. It comes through the LES to give it, but it overcomes the U. The UES will have a higher pressure. The LES, the lower one. What we saw, LES is you have gastroesophageal reflux disease. It'll be about 10 millimeters of mercury or less, but it runs around 30, whereas the UES is around 80. Okay, so, but if you don't have it open, you can't go, and that's where retching comes in. That was on TBL, wasn't it? A question, retching.
Yes.
It's what they call dry heave or something like heaving or something like that. But basically, everything is happening right, but your UES isn't opening. So, and then what happened? Esophageal peristalsis just takes it back down. But sometimes you might even taste it, you know what I mean? You know something funny happened. All right. Okay, now you remember swallowing. You have to turn off respiration because they're using the same pathway in here that you can breathe or swallow, right? It's the same intranasal pathway. And, usually it's closed off sufficiently, and it's not a problem, but sometimes if you have a real strong contraction, people will vomit not just through their nose, but not just through their mouth, but also out of their nose, okay? Just like if you start laughing while you're trying to drink milk or something, it'll come out of your nose, okay? All right, the problem. And so eventually, once these things are working, you protect your respiratory tract and eject it, okay? Now, if the irritation, we're talking about the stomach, most of your vomiting will be in the stomach. And if you have irritation in the in the duodenum, then it's one of the few cases of either retroperistalsis or anti-peristalsis, whatever you want to call it. You can Google both terms. But the intraneural circuitry gets shifted from going downstream, going upstream. Okay? So all of a sudden now it goes into the stomach, and exactly the same thing happens as if it was just the stomach. In other words, you're irritating the stomach, if you move something nasty up into the stomach, right? This makes sense, okay? All right. And we covered it. All right, one last thing. Chemoreceptor triggers on focusing on the upper part of that slide. All right. You have another thing I might as well bring up. I think you might know about this. Okay, vomiting center. You can trigger the vomiting center by spraying toxic material or anything in the oral pharynx region. As a matter of fact, you can induce vomiting by just sticking your finger down your throat. Don't do it here, but I mean, you can do that, okay? And I think most people know that, right? You can, just by triggering, you trigger the chemoreceptor zone, and all right, vomiting center, and there is your chemoreceptor. I like that word trigger because it'll come down and turn on the vomiting center, right? Motion sickness. They have drugs for that, but I went deep sea fishing one time. Everybody gonna go get these fish, and they get on this boat, and they go out where the waves are pretty big. And most of the time, they're still fishing, throwing up over the side. That's motion sickness, right? And some people will get sick in the car. They don't like it, or a plane or something. That's why in a plane, you've been on airplanes, right? They have a little bag for you. For most, well, some people, it can happen. All right, and it activates the chemoreceptor zone, trigger zone. Opiates, they do the same thing. Opiates will activate the zone, like apomorphine or something else like that. And I think everyone's read this thing. It doesn't happen often, but some rock stars, they'll be reported they died because they were taking drugs, right? Well, what happened is they activated the opioid receptor because they're on the drug, they're unconscious or whatever, which means your nerves are kind of screwed up. So basically, they don't close off the respiratory tract. Basically, they drown in their own body. Okay? or else they just die from too much of the drug. But sometimes they die from their own vomiting, because the opiates, if they're taking opiates, and a lot of times it is opiates, they end up vomiting. And if they're on the floor vomiting, that's not good. By the way, I saw clinicians trying to save someone. It was a young gastroenterologist giving a talk, and we were in a small room, and he was so nervous because there was an audience. You know, like you people, when I ask you to defend some question that might be wrong, or nobody wants to go to the mic, right? But anyway, he was real nervous, and he started throwing up on stage in a small room. And all these clinicians, that's what came up, picked him up by his feet, started going like this, bizarre. Anyway, they wanted to make sure he didn't swallow the stuff. Yeah. Anyway, you don't have this problem. I hope not. Anyway, but you've heard of morning sickness in females. Have you ever heard of that? Sort of hormones in pregnancy. Why it happens in the morning? I don't know. It's all chemoreceptor. Upper GI tract, alcohol, anger, any irritation to the stomach. Alcohol, I guess, well, you could have a problem with that, but you have to leave the country, I guess. Pain, emotional response. Okay, the last thing up here is, if you have excessive gastric vomiting, remember, think logic and what happens to your body. You know what a cell does when it puts out acid? Housekeeping, right? So, in the body, if you lose a lot of acid from the stomach, guess what happens systemically? Alkalosis. Your systemic that goes up because you're losing your body's acid. You need acid-base balance. All right. Now, be kind to Wild